And I'm supposed to be sitting there watching them, and I'm doing shenanigans, and I'm dancing across, and they were like, "Roland, could you tell your daughter to sit down?" Because I just couldn't help it. They were they were doing the music, and I could just feel. I was just feeling every single beat and vibration.
Welcome everyone to the Living Strong podcast. I'm Peter Liciaga, and this is the place where we explore the people, the ideas, and the defining moments that remind us that living strong is just a tap away. Today's episode, we are going to do something special for me, because we're celebrating Women's Appreciation Month. And I have the privilege of interviewing someone who has had a profound impact on my life, not just as an artist, but as my wife, my partner in life for nearly 4 decades. My guest today is my wife, Renee Chambers-Liciaga. Renee and I met in 1986 at Hersheypark. She was a singer in the rock and roll show, and I was a dancer in the dance show. 2 young performers chasing the stage, chasing the craft, and somewhere in the middle of all that music and movement and dance, we met. A year later, we were married, and here we are almost 40 years later, still walking, dancing, moving on this journey together. Renee has built an incredible career in the performing arts, performing, choreographing, directing, and mentoring artists around the world. Many people know her work from musical theater, the productions, including Starlight Express, and many, many other productions across the United States and internationally. And right now, she's in rehearsals for Jelly's last Jam at the Bristol Riverside Theater. Very excited about that. But Renee's story really begins even earlier, growing up around one of the most legendary eras of American music.
So if you want to come and see an amazing show, we've Jelly's Last Jam at Bristol Riverside Theater. We open the end of this month, and we run till the end of April.
There you go.
What is it? brtstage.org, and Peter will put it in the link.
I'll put it right below somewhere in this page. Look for it. Get your tickets. And
Broadway choreographers we're working with, people from the New York area, Philadelphia. Our musical directors worked with Stevie Wonder and Beyonce. The band, the orchestra is smoking. This show is incredible. I just found out this the other day. This is Bristol Riverside Theater's largest show that they've ever done.
Renee, welcome to the Living Strong podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. And I have to tell you that I'm actually very nervous.
That's so silly. He's nervous. Why? I don't know.
I am. I'm very, very nervous, and so anyway, I have my message on my not my messages, but my notes, and I have to tell you guys that I'm nervous. My wife, and I realize that I haven't really interviewed you, and I'll get emotional because this is very exciting for me, and I have bunch of questions for you, so I hope you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
And I have.
Thanks for the introduction. He could get just going on. 40 years is a long time, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I have questions that are like, I have 6 acts of questions.
Okay. And this is my day off, everybody.
Day off. And I know you had rehearsals for Jelly's Last Jam.
All week.
And I know your voice, so we've got her microphone hot.
Yes.
So mics might peak a bit, but that's why. Okay, we'll do our best to give you guys some great information. Renee has rich history. So, Act 1, roots.
Ooh,
your roots.
Your roots.
So here's a question I have for you. Question number 1 is your dad, Roland Chambers, was part of that legendary Philadelphia music scene with Kenny Gamble, Leon Huff, and
Tom Bell, and the list goes on and on.
Philadelphia International Records, and your mom was part of the vocal group.
Yep.
The Orlons.
The Orlons, yeah. With Cameo Parkway Records. I mean, we're going back to the late 50s, early 60s, and then beyond.
Yeah. Now, you spent a lot of time around recording artists in the studio. So this is the question. What do you remember about being around that musical environment as a child, as a kid?
Oh, wow.
Seeing all this.
This is really cool that you asked this, because we just had a talk back a couple of weeks ago for the educational department at Bristol Riverside Theater. And someone that was in the audience that was on the board with me at Rowan College years ago asked me that question.
Amazing.
And like how it like how the love of music started for me. And I could say, I guess maybe, you know, before I was even born, when I was, you know, in my mother's belly, because, you know, my dad was on tour and he played with so many people, you know, Ike and Tina Turner, and, you know, and not just as a musician, but then, you know, when he started, you know, composing and writing. So I just remembered being around it all of the time. Like, just, I feel like it was in my DNA and in my blood. And then on my mother's side, even though they weren't professional musicians, I remember my grandmom telling me about, you know, my great uncle Doc and Grandmom Still and my great grandfather playing the fiddle. Like, they would play the fiddle and sing, like, you know, hymns and spiritual songs. So on both sides of the family, it was just always there. Music was always there.
I know you share stories about you being in the studio. And,
yeah.
And you were always well behaved, very still, never talking, never moving.
Well, when I was
I'm only kidding, guys.
No.
She'll say, I love some of the stories that you share. So share one of them with you as a kid. And
okay. Yeah, well, I remembered, like, at 11, 12, 13 years old, you know, when we would go to 309 South Broad, you know, that was right there. And on top of it, before it became University of the Arts, it was called College of the Performing Arts. And that was on, I think, the 6th or 7th floor. I can't remember how many floors there were. And I would go there for dance. And then my mom would let me hang out, you know, and then I would go downstairs. And so I'm coming from dance as a teenager, and my dad, I'll never forget this one time. They're in the recording studio with, I think it was the People's Choice. And, you know, he's in there with them. You know, you remember that small studio? I think it was either Jim Gallagher or Dexter. Somebody was on the board. And I'm supposed to be sitting there watching them, and I'm doing Shanae's. And I'm dancing across, and they were like, "Roland, could you tell your daughter to sit down?" Because I just couldn't help it. They were doing the music, and I could just feel. I was just feeling every single, you know, beat and vibration. So that was the way I could communicate, is like, through my body. So yeah, that was me at my earliest, you know, recollections at the studio dancing.
And I can see that, of course, guys. I've known Renee for quite a while, and never stop moving, always dancing. Music goes on,
always
she's moving. That's it, 100%. And so for the people who have never been in the studio, okay, what was that environment like when you were growing up around it?
You know,
being in the studio.
Yeah, I didn't realize, you know, how much of a music legacy that my mom and my dad were creating. Because my dad was so super humble. You know, he would come home, oh, yeah, you know, was on tour with Dusty Springfield. Oh, I'm going to London. I'm going here. And I'm like, Dusty Springfield? B.B. King he played with? But my dad, yeah, you know, you remember him. Yeah. He was just very humble. He had a deep, low voice. And, you know, he just did his thing. But that's how he, you know what I mean, would share, was through writing and composition and scoring and playing guitar. And for me being there and then actually seeing it, then I went, I'm just in this creative tank of just synergy and energy and them bouncing ideas back and forth and literally just creating music right on the spot. It was overwhelming at first, but then I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, this is my family. This is what, you know.
So at the time, you were aware of the power of that, and in the studio, you were in the studio. They were recording music, and the music that they were recording was being heard by millions of people around the world. Yeah. You were aware of that during that time?
A little bit, but I think it really wasn't until I went away to college, came back, I would think in my mid-20s. And then, you know, and when we were in Europe doing shows, you know, we're there with Tower of Power and whatever, and they're like, Renee Chambers? Chambers? Oh, your dad and I played in the Uptown with blah, blah, blah back in 1970, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, everyone, that we've traveled around the world, and you mentioned in Germany, you were doing that show, Schmidt-Einander.
Right?
And they would have a musical guest on there.
Yeah.
They had Tower of Power,
Dirty Dozen Band, like all these jazz bands.
And you would go to them, and like Tower of Power, you went to them, sharing with them, when you went to them, say, hi, my name is, and...
Well, we were just hanging out, you know, and waiting, and, you know, they introduced us to the band, and I think it was the saxophone player and someone else. And, oh, my name is Renee Chambers, because, you know, I would still use my, you know, my stage name as well, too. And the sax player was like, Chambers? He was like, is your dad Roland And I was just like, yeah, we played with him back in 1975 at the Uptown. And they're like going through lists of all this work. So like the network, like that musicianship and that network of musicians, because my dad really never bragged about, you know, who he played with and who he composed for. But all of these people were just like, that to me just, it wasn't like an honor at that point, because then, you know, when we came home, then he was very sick. And then he passed away maybe 10 years later after that. But that was just incredible for me.
Amazing. Now, when you look back now as a professional artist now looking back there, what do you think you absorbed from being around that world of music so early in your life and from infancy?
I could say the dedication that those musicians and the sound engineers and the talent had. They had like a dedication to the craft, to the music. I mean, because my father, and I remembered my mom telling me this, and I was like, wow. He was like one of the few studio musicians, black musicians, that could actually sit and chart and transpose music. And when there was a TV, I think it was the Jerry Blavat, when he had his TV show or something at Channel 6, and my dad was part of the studio musicians, but a lot of the other musicians couldn't read music. So my dad would sit out and chart the music for everyone, you know, for the rest of the band. And so that, like, hearing that and then seeing that just made me realize, like, the respect and the dedication that they had to their craft. And that they were, you know, that's all they did. They were professional musicians. They took their gift and their craft seriously. There was always a deadline because, you know, Kenny and Leon were like, and Tom Bell, let's go. We got to get this out. We got to get that out. You know, and my dad, they would send him. He did some tracks for Motown as well, too, even though he was a Philadelphia sound musician. But he went out, you know, and did some cuts on the spinners and outside as well.
Let me ask you this, as an artist, the work that you're doing now and what you bring to whatever project you're on, like right now you're on Jelly's Last Jam. So as an artist, what did you absorb from that you see now in what you do now in the work that you do?
My love for music and my love for the craft and my respect, my utmost respect for the studio, those musicians. I have to shout her out. Her name is Victoria Theodore. She is our musical director for this show, and
Jelly's Last Jam.
And Jelly's Last Jam, and the music. You know, I mean, I've done Ain't Misbehaving. That was 20-something years ago. But that was, I think, was my first show, you know, and that was about Fats Waller. Well, Jelly's Last Jam is about Jelly Roll Morton, and he was one of the first pioneers of jazz. So you're getting, you know, I'm getting like the music history of jazz and the blues and where that came from.
So what do you bring as an artist? You bring to the project?
I think my knowledge of being. Of growing up in that,
because you're part of that history,
and part of that history. I mean, some of it I paid attention to, and some of it I didn't. But then I would ask my dad, because my dad, I mean, he, you know, into Muddy Waters and all the blues and the jazz guitars, and that all came from, you know, the Mississippi Delta, and then going up through, you know, through the northern parts of the beginnings of jazz. So I think what I bring is that knowledge and realizing, oh wow, I'm a part of this history.
You know, they talk about you know this idea of 6 degrees of separation. You're like 1 degree from a lot of key people.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
2 to 3. You know, through your dad, through. You know, from Patti LaBelle,
Kenny Gamble,
you know, I mean, so many times we've been to places, and because you knew someone there, it was from their perspective, because of your dad. It was a 100% deep connection with them because of your dad. So,
and for me, even more so, I think as a student and wanting to learn and grow more on this project with this show. Because it's so steeped in the roots of jazz and blues and that whole Creole sound and what it means, is now I'm learning things as a musician, as a singer, that I really didn't learn in musical theater. Tritones and building bluesy notes and chords that don't match. So my ears are being really challenged to be able to hear that note. I'm like, where is it? Is it such a thing? Yes, it is, Renee. So that's what I'm learning now.
That's fantastic. Now we're going to move into Act 2, where we're going to finding the stage. Now, guys, before we get started, I'll get emotional on a lot of this. So I do have tissues here, so that we do. So can you pass me those tissues there?
No.
I always have tissues here, and this is something I have with me all the time because the work that I do, I realize I better have tissue. Okay, and so we have that there. So if you need it, it's there. And
hey, don't make me cry.
Me. Oh well.
What's that thing? I'm not crying. You're crying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're going now to finding the stage. You finding the stage. Question. With respect to Act 2 now, moving in. At what point did you realize that performing, singing and dancing on stage, okay, might become your own path?
Oh, wow. I don't. My mom would probably say when I was like 5 or 6 years old, because I would literally go in her closet, dig up her wigs from when she was with the Orlons, have my hairbrush. I mean, I was all, I would put she says I would put my stuffed animals and my dolls and organize them and be like, okay, now appearing Renee Chambers. And I would go through like a whole, I'm going through a whole monologue off the top of my head. I'm doing a dance number. I'm singing my mom and dad's songs, not realizing that, but I'm entertaining my dolls and my stuffed animals. And then I think, ooh, that was the first time, and then when I had one of my first dance recitals, oh my God, this is embarrassing, but I just realized it because my mom, you know how when your parents tell like when you were really little and you don't remember, but my mom has like pictures and what do you call it? Newspaper clippings? Mm-hmm. Little Miss Ray Lynn or whatever. I don't know, but my first dance recital, I was 4. And Age of Aquarius, I don't know, we were supposed to be doing something. I took the tambourine out, went in the front, and I'm just banging it on my hip, and I'm smiling, and my grandfather was like, yep, there she is. And I was 4 and a half.
4 and a half.
So, yeah, I just went to the center and just did my own thing. Yeah.
Amazing. Now, when you first began performing professionally, mm-hmm. What were some of the biggest lessons the stage taught you professionally?
Okay, let me see. Ooh, I could go back. Okay, oh gosh, maybe sophomore year, I think, of college.
And now, keep in mind, you had already you started doing professional work.
Yeah, like Great Adventure and stuff like that. Like during my summers in college. So like our Great Adventure, like our choreographer was Richie in a chorus line who understudied, all the Greg Burge, Kevin Chin. And so it was like I realized there was a small little tiny network and circle. Mm-hmm. But I remembered one of the first things, because we were outside in the bandstand, you had the bugs, and you're sweating, and I was doing Dancing in the Streets because it was Shake, Rattle, and Soul. So that was and it still is my go-to song for booking shows because it, my range, Martha and the Vandellas, the whole Motown sound, and I just remembered having to learn, like, okay, Renee, first of all, pace yourself. And second of all, wherever there was a spot in between, I would just clap. Woo! Yeah. And Kevin was like, Renee, there's no clap in that choreography. So that was one of the things I had to learn was pace myself, because we did, I don't know, the theme park shows were hard. Right, yeah. We were outside Hersheypark as well. Bam, bam, bam. Yeah. You had to pace yourself, because if you didn't, you weren't going to have a voice and this, that, and the other.
I don't know how many shows you guys did a day. I did, when I met Renee in 86, I was in the dance show. We did 5 shows a day.
Yeah, and I think we only did 4 because we were the rock and roll show, but we were inside with air conditioning. They were outside.
We were outside in the hot air.
Sun.
And that's a whole other story.
Woo, troll.
But yeah.
Yes.
So I love it. So now we'll go to Act 3. So we're going through this nicely. Okay, remember we got 6 acts.
Oh, no.
Okay, so now Act 3 is Hersheypark. It's a great segue. Money going in there, right? So in 1986, we both ended up working at Hersheypark. Mm-hmm. You were singing in the rock and roll show, and I was dancing in the dance show. Mm-hmm. Dance, rock and roll show. What do you remember about that time when you were stepping into that professional performing world?
Okay, well, I remembered, wow. I mean, I almost remember the audition like it was yesterday, because there was like thousands of people. And remember, we had the open call at the Minskoff. And then I'll never forget him. God bless him. God rest his soul. Alan Alberts. We're there for callbacks. I was there with all of my girlfriends from the dance, from Adelphi University, where I was going to college. And we were all dancing, doing the tap combination, then the cut, then the ballet, then the cut, then the jazz, then the cut. And then we had to sing. And no one else could really, sing. And I wasn't afraid to sing. So Alan Alberts put me on the spot, sing Johnny Be Good. And I'm like, I think I know that tune. So I'm doing, he was like, that day I remember I got hired. So I was like so excited. I was so thrilled. But then they were like, well, we might want you to swing the country show and the rock and roll show in this. And I think Alan said, no, we just need her on the rock and roll show. We wanted to do one track, which I was like, thank God. Because, later on, then both of us were in swing tracks, like 8, 9, 10, 11 rolls, understudying, which is a whole nother segment. But I remembered that, and then, we all had to pack up, for the summer, and then move right in from my college dorm right into the apartments at Hersheypark. And that was like a big deal for me because, I miss my mom and dad. I never lived anywhere else, but home or college. And, so on my own, 18 years old. And so then learning again, how to pace myself, how to stay focused, how not to stay out too late swimming in the pool, and certain things. It was. I
know it was amazing. You and I met, and the next act is going to go to Starlight. We spoke about, it. But before that, I want to, because you're talking about someone young performing artist,
super young.
You did Great Adventure. Then here you are now at Hersheypark, learning. And I want to share, because right after that, you went back to college, and then you had the opportunity to have an amazing experience. Share that with everyone. Let everyone know.
Oh, you mean when I auditioned for Tokyo Disney, Japan? That was pretty amazing. Working with Bayark Lee, who is just like living legend, all on her own. And those auditions, again, it was at the Minskoff, and those auditions were grueling. It went from like 400 people to 100 to 20 of us to 5 of us, and then they were taking measurements, and I didn't know, am I going to book it? Am I not going to book it? Now, at this point, Peter and I, he had already proposed to me. We were engaged. We had been engaged for 2 or 3 months. He was on a tour. I was still in school, and we didn't know. There was no internet. There was no social media. We were like old school, dialing the phone, writing letters, and I'll never forget when I booked it. You said to me, because I was nervous. I'd never lived out of the country before.
It took, let people know exactly where you were going, how long the contract was
I was going to Japan, like halfway across the world, away from my own home, my family, away from you, away from college, like the people that I knew, to live in a foreign country for, I think it was 8 months plus maybe a 2-month extension or something. It was long. It was a long contract, almost a year. And I just remembered I was so thrilled when I got it. He's on tour. I call you and I told you, and I remembered you saying, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I don't, do you know what I mean? I was like, I don't know. I want to go because it's such an opportunity and it's amazing. I always wanted to be a Disney kid. And to live in a foreign country, even though I was nervous, I was excited. And I remembered you saying, you got to go for your dreams, Renee. You got to do it. It's like, you're like, this is what you're going to school for. And it's not going to make sense if you just don't go. And when you said yes, and then my mom and my stepdad said yes, and the family, and it was a blessing. I learned so much in that contract, like being away from, and that again, learning how to be disciplined, eating well, going to resting my voice, doing the practices of what the dance captains told us to do, so that we didn't get injured, and like all these things. I remembered, learning in such a short period of time, especially in Japan.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it, because I think that's important, because as a young artist going to a different country, I had that experience, going to Germany, but going to Japan, that was amazing. So let's go to Act 4, Starlight Express. And Starlight Express,
the show that's still running that we both did together, and we've done a lot of other shows. It's funny because I remember, I'm just going to say this real quick. I remembered he did Starlight Express. I got Jesus Christ Superstar. And then we did Starlight, and then we did Joseph. And then, so everyone was like, oh my God, okay, how many more Angela Lloyd Webber shows are y'all going to do? And I'm like, as many as we can. Because why?
Webber kids,
They are still what? Running till this day.
Still working.
We are grateful for Sir Angela Lloyd Webber and Arlene Phillips and everybody that's part of the Really Useful Company, because we got to work together in different countries for years at a time, which helped us build our family and our home and all, so people would joke, oh my God, Jesus Christ Super Cat. I'm like, I don't care.
That's okay. That's all right. We'll love it. So let me go to the question and see if the question, you might have answered it, right? Okay. So you and I both share the experience, of course, with Starlight Express, performing with Starlight Express. And original cast of the German production in Bochum, which is still happening, breaking
running.
records.
Amazing
to say that. And we are doing interviews with all the alumni on that, which was one of the most physically demanding shows
ever.
And I'll say arguably, because some people, I know some shows are tough, but this show, musical theater show on skates, right? And so, what did that experience? You did the show. What did that experience teach you about the discipline required to sustain a career? In this industry with shows like that, because I will say that this show did end some careers. Some careers,
yes, it did. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because one of the producers on Jelly's Last Jam, that is one of her and her, I think, a friend of hers, favorite musicals of all time. So she wants to get with me and ask me all these like amazing questions. And I told her this. I said it was the most difficult, thrilling, challenging show I've ever done in my entire life. And the reason was, it just wasn't because of the roller skating. It was also because of the set. Mm-hmm. The set in Germany was like a skateboard, and is a skateboard park still. Going extreme, like extreme sports, extreme, and you had to have extreme athleticism. Mm-hmm. And this is what I remembered, because I was telling somebody this the other day. Don't ask me how it got on a Starlight story, but how when we were injured and we had small injuries, or whether they were big or small, I used to love going to that place where they used to also train the Bundesliga, the German soccer players. Right. Mm-hmm. And there was heated eucalyptus pools. Yeah. They used to do these fango packs where they would wrap us and manipulate us, arnica cream, eucalyptus, and this is how I started talking about that, because what we learned when we were living in these different countries for 20-something years was the homeopathic way to take care of our bodies, and that ties into my great-great-great-great-grandfather, who was Dr. James Still, the Black Doctor of the Pines, herbal. So it's like this, that's why I was talking about it. And I was like, when my husband and I were in Germany, they'd let us swim in the eucalyptus pools. But what I learned about being in Starlight, not just the discipline of taking care of our bodies, but really trusting the process of our creative team. Right. Yeah. Randall White-Scarver was one of the most amazing production stage managers, hands down, ever. Was with us on the U.S. tour. Then he came to Germany. Remember, he came back out to help with the German production. Michael Fraley, Mark David, like teaching us how to stay safe on that set. Right. Because we've seen, I was skating behind people with injuries, like just hearing like the tendons and the shoulders and the ligaments just ripping out of the socket, because it was just so specific what we had to do. Right. Now, we were already disciplined as dancers, right? The ballet, the tap, the jazz, this, that, and the other, the modern dance, the vocals, the mono, but adding that layer of roller skating, and then adding the layer of equipment and gear, because this was 20-something, 30-something years ago, where the pieces were heavy. You're talking 20 to 30, right? Or you all had 30 to 40 pounds extra on your bodies. Right. With the engines, costumes. Those costumes. So even if we were dancing in rehearsals, once you put, it was a whole nother different dynamic. And the creative team, that they knew specifically what they needed from us out of our bodies in order for us to do the show and do it well, and then enjoy it, because I wanted to enjoy it. I remember being like, us going back this, not the first time, but the second time, going, I'm only 26 years old and I want to have a career after this. Like, I wanted to do my Smokey Joe cafes and my Ain't Misbehavings, but we couldn't, get to that point. I couldn't have gotten to that point in my career without listening to the creative team. And when they said stop moving or get off the set, or there's oil on the set, or hydraulics are moving, don't move. Thank God for our crew, like literally the whole dynamic. That's what I feel like kept us safe to do our jobs, to make the magic. Yeah. It's funny because you say that, and a lot of the alumni, like yourself and I, say that same thing. They praise the creative team. Now, in hindsight, I mean, in the moments, we were just busy trying to survive and do that. But looking back, just the safety factor, and I remember one thing that Reba Rice said. Her interview, actually, guys, was last Sunday, because if you're watching this is Sunday, I believe the
22nd or something like that there. But last Sunday, Reva on the Voices of Starlight shared that when I asked her on opening night, what was that like on Broadway? Opening night, she's one of the stars of Broadway, and she said that was the last thing that was really on her mind because there was so many injuries. They just wanted to be safe. She said, "I just don't want to get hurt. Be safe.
Safety first."
And so now, looking back, everything you say with Randy Whitescarver, with Michael Fraley, and the passion put into it,
amazing.
Even Arlene Phillips, they all got an appreciation.
All of them.
Even when I communicate with Arlene now, I spoke to her a couple of weeks ago, and how she has a great appreciation for the talent, the actors, those of us that went on that stage. And she said have the courage to do the show. And you had to there was so many stages, and I don't want to get into that now. You'll hear that on the alumni podcast. However, there were different phases of safety and concern. And
definitely.
So I know for me as a performing artist, and it sounds like what you're saying, it added so much to you as a performing artist. And now you bring this to Jelly's Last Jam. When you get out there as one of a seasoned performer. And can you imagine doing a show like you're now bringing this to the table, to the stage, and then what you would have brought to the stage when you were younger, what you bring now, it's just even.
Oh yeah, because it's more wisdom. It's more decades of wisdom. But as they say, as you know, you have to be able to go through it and walk through it and able to get to the other side. Yeah. But what I noticed and what I remembered, and not just by Starlight was the hardest, but the second hardest show I ever did was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, with all the hydraulics and things lifting, and you had to be at the right place at the right time, or else your ankle is rolling because the set pieces would move as you're going on your way to Egypt, and the set pieces and the costume pieces were leather, and they were 20 to 30 pounds, and people fell and people rolled off the stage and people got stuck. And so that was, like, I would say the second hardest, because you're moving, and if you were in the wrong spot at the wrong time, it was a domino effect, and then everyone would either go down or someone would get injured. If you didn't go into the cartwheel or the lift correctly or hold yourself correctly, you were injuring your partner. So there were a lot of moving pieces on that show as well. And so what I learned from both of those Andrew Lloyd Webber shows was, make sure you do your homework. Like for me to do my due diligence, what does that look like? Not just learning the show and learning the pieces, but once you're in the show for years at a time, going to the gym, staying fit, stretching, vocalizing, getting the rest, communicating with whatever swings that are going on, waiting, having patience, and pulling back. That's what I learned as well too, like young. Pulling back and waiting for the directors to tell you where to go. And the choreographers and the dance captains, because I can have opinions all day long, but that's not my job. Do you know what I mean? That's not where I fit in.
Right.
And so now, being on the other end, I'm loving it because, I've directed and choreographed on the, high school and college level. Now I'm like, guess what? Glam mom does not need to know all that, because I'm not on that side of the table. Wow, I get to be talent. I get to be on the other side of the table and just wait for them to tell me where to go.
Well,
so I'm loving that.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. I know Starlight Express, and I have a question here, but you answered the question. So what makes that show unique and experience more unique than other shows? And I think for us performers, that was it. So Renee, when you hear that phrase, someone who is one to be reckoned with, what does that mean to you personally?
I don't know. For me, like, reckoned with, I mean, for me, it's kind of a...
Yeah, and I know that's a word that I chose, when I wrote it. So
you chose that. But I mean...
Well, let's change the question. Let's change the question.
One to be...
Because I see you as one to be reckoned with, and someone who's tough, someone who's confronted with a challenge, and you will do all that you can to get through that challenge, whether that challenge is a part that you're going to perform for or audition. You have, let's say, 20,000 pages of script that you have to have memorized. And let's not go into that, but you get the idea. Or confronted with someone that is going to they put you to the side for some reason or another, whatever, discount you. I perceive you, and I've seen you, to be one to be reckoned with.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, well, yeah, and that, if you, phrase it that way, I guess so. I mean, I feel as though, the doors that are open that God has, allowed me to walk through, and places that I've been put in is for a reason. And, for me sometimes, and being a woman, and usually I've been the only woman in the room, whether I was choreographing for commercials or teaching, and then the only woman of color, the only African-American woman, when I was on boards, certain boards and certain things and situations would come up. So really having to speak up, for myself and, just taking a stand and saying, well, you know what, no, I disagree. I don't think that's right, and just really, and I don't know, I believe I get that, that kind of whatever, gusto, chutzpah, as we say, or that kind of fire, definitely from my mom, but my grandmom, both of my grandmoms. My grandmom on my dad's side, she was sassy, and so was Nana. Nana was sassy, and she, hostess with the mostest would love you and everything like that, but, there was a certain line. It was like, and no, now you've totally disrespected me as a person, as a woman, as a black woman, and so now this is what I need to do to overcome this. And, I've been praying, and I think, and you've seen me do certain things that it's had to be done graciously, like with grace. And, not the bitterness and the, what I mean, that could come from that by standing up for myself and choosing a way that's going to still honor, the situation, even though I've been dishonored, and to rise above it. Well, and that's hard.
Yeah, well, it's great because this month is just celebrating women. Okay, and so how do you feel? What are your thoughts on that? Not how do you feel, but what are your thoughts on that? And are there people that you'd like to lift up and celebrate that recognize them as women? That in my way, women to be reckoned with because of the choices they're making and how they're standing strong for themselves, living strong for themselves.
Yes. Well, this month, and thank God we have 31 days. I've been in rehearsals, but, it was put on my heart last month, from February, Love Month, to be able to shout out and honor some women. And I've already done that, like on my, social media pages. Dr. Paulette Aku, she's, with Women of Great Price. She is a counselor. She just really lifts up women. She just turned 70. Woo! Oh, and she's just a beautiful woman. She's going through a lot right now, but she just stands firm. She has her children that she's raised, her grandchildren, and I just love seeing that. My own mother, who just turned 80, just saw her with the worship team singing this morning on TV, and she's still keeping herself active even though she's retired from teaching, but she's learning new things and she's growing and she's pouring into other people, and so that's a blessing to me to see these women, to have these women in my life. My best friend Deborah from New York City, having her rise above her challenges and things that she's going through, and that the two of us have been best friends over 30 years. That's like a, do you know what I mean? That kind of friendship and relationship, and it's not always easy, as we know, with our relationship and friendship. It needs to continue to grow. But other younger women that I've, been mentoring and coaching, they're pouring into me because, they're seeing me. Like, I like the prime example. Back in September, Tyrone's like, yeah, come on and audition for Jelly's Last Jam, Renee. I'm like, woo! I'm like, I was like, Mama, because everybody would call me Mama now. I'm a we're grandparents now. I was like, Mama hasn't been on the stage in a minute. And he's like, come on, it'll be easy. And I got there, and, and one of my mentees, she was auditioning too. So her and the other ladies are standing behind me. I'm like, oh no, just because I'm remembering the choreography now doesn't mean I'm going to remember all of it. So you need to, go in front of me. Like, I want to be a student today too, and I want to learn. And it was like riding a bike. But I believe it's because I keep, you know what I mean? I keep fit. When I'm mentoring my students, I'm not saying, oh, well, do as I say. I'm literally like, do as I do. Like, I'm on the floor with them, learning the choreography and the combinations. I'm working on my voice with them. So it's like, it's helping me to stay current and relevant and push, I'm telling you, look, I'm talking to myself, I'm not just telling you what to do. I'm telling it to myself too. So now all my students, y'all can come see me in the show. As honey number 2, because look, some days I'm just like, ooh, you know what I mean? Just like, where did it go?
Amazing. All right, so thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that, and respect for all those women, all the women.
Yes.
And so Act 5. Ooh. Remember, we got 6 acts. So
oh no,
we're wrapping it up, everyone. So we're ready to close it up. But the question is, right now, you're in rehearsals for Jelly's Last Jam, because this act is about today, now, present.
Yep.
Okay. And you're in rehearsals for Jelly's Last Jam at Bristol Riverside Theater in Bristol, PA. And after all these years, and you started, mentioning that a little bit. You spent performing. What still excites you about walking into a rehearsal room and building a new production?
Oh, wow. Ooh, I think for me, because I'm a people person, you know that, getting to know the people, like the cast and where they come from and what they do, the crew. I met a whole bunch of crew. You know me, I'll talk to anybody. Murray, I know people in the marketing department. I was, hi, I'm Renee, how you doing? And just because it's just me. But I think it's just being back in a creative mode of learning new things, with our director Tyrone at the helm, and all this talent, just bringing things to the table and then figuring out how things work. Like that excites me. That's why, of course, as I love still directing and choreographing, on smaller things and corporate shows, because it keeps my mind fresh of, ooh, there's these ideas. How do we make this happen? And can we get the team, you know what I mean, to make this pivot and so I think it's like the whole thing, like just being submersed back in it. That's kind of sparked like my creative juices and my creative brain, so to speak.
Well, it's
again,
exciting. Very exciting. It's very exciting. I can't wait to see the show.
Ooh, the show's fire.
For people who only see the finished performance, what is the rehearsal process really like? And I love that you had shared that video. I don't know whether it was yesterday.
I shared it yesterday finally.
And vocalizing.
Yep.
And I remember that just caught my attention, and saying, this is what it's like to prepare as a professional, to prepare for a musical theater production. And so share more about that people don't see any of that.
Sure. And it's interesting because for me, my thing is, you ever hear, don't try to get ready, stay ready. Already be ready, because the opportunity is going to come. And I've known this for the last, even though I, went in the private sector and I was teaching, but, my agents, I was still getting, submitted for work in New York, but I was on the print and commercial end of it for the last 12, 13 years, and they would send me stuff. Hey, Renette, well, I really can't, but I would know that when I was coaching my students, I'm like, at any time they could call me in, or I could get called in for a theater show or a Broadway, like, oh, they need a swing on a national tour or something. Renee, are you ready? And like, oh, well, no, I'm not. Yes, I'm ready. Why? Because I've been doing the homework. And I feel like that's just, that's, I don't know. It's not just my job, but I love doing that. It's not just my job as an artist, but as a person. As I'm getting older, I want to stay healthy. I want us to enjoy our lives together. Right, I want us to enjoy our grandson. I want to enjoy being out with my friends and things like that. And, yes, we have health challenges as we get older. Like, I'm going through the menopause now, so I'll get the hot flash and I'll start getting like, and I'm like, woo, everybody's like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. I'm like, I'm hot, and I'll just laugh about it. But, being able to stay connected to that creative side of me is important. I think not just as an artist, but as a person. I think because that's who I am. That's what it's not just all of who I am, but it's a facet of who I am.
Yeah. So
what I'm doing,
without question, this show,
rehearsal process,
Jelly's Last Jam, singing, dancing, acting, staging. A story being told, a true story.
Yes.
All that's
real
happening,
story, yeah.
and then working with other people with different personalities, and then. When you're exhausted, because I've been there, when you're exhausted, still being able to perform and be professional.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that you do to sustain yourself through that process?
Wow. Yeah. First of all, for me, prayer is important. Breathing. Doing a lot of just breathing, just to slow me down, not the vocal breathing, but just the deep breathing, the cleansing breathing. That helps me to stay focused. Definitely snacking throughout the day in rehearsals, because for me, the mornings were really great. And then we go away to lunch, and this was me the other day, 2 days ago, and I said it. I went live, and I posted it. I said, sometimes after lunch, I get silly, because it's just like so much is going on. Like, we've gotten our blocking, and then we've gotten our dramaturgy, from our director, and, who I am as a honey, how do I fit in, and what does this, what does the story mean as we're trying to, conjure up Jelly Roll Morton and his spirit, and, all these things, because, this was... this is historical. He's a real person. So it's staying connected and plugged into the story of what the creative team is trying to present,
Right.
to the audience, or as Tyrone would say, to the witnesses, because they're witnessing something that's about to happen on stage, magic. And so for me, sometimes after lunch, I'm like toasty toast. So a few days ago, I realized, you know what, I need to have the banana, the protein, the snacks, so that I can stay mentally aware and focused and locked in, because I haven't done a show like this as a performer. I just realized that like a couple weeks ago. Oh, when I'm putting up a show, I'm done. Like once I'm done, opening dance captain, tag you're it, whoever tag you're it, and the show is theirs. It's not mine anymore.
Right.
Now this is mine, and I'm like, oh, so dreams. I'm having dreams. The music's going through in my head.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Looking through my notes on my day off.
Yeah.
All these things. But then of course maintaining. Oh yeah, we have a household to run and maintain too. All right, so I'm going to do the laundry, or I'm going to sit here with my cup of tea for 2 hours and just, because you have to have the decompression part too.
Sure, yeah, without question.
Have to have the decompression. I've been doing the Epsom salts with the eucalyptus steam baths and all, just so that my body can actually relax and go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because Nene will have all this stuff in here, and and sometimes everybody learns differently,
Right, yeah.
and that's what I'm still learning. Like, oh yeah, okay, the way the 25, 35, 45, even 55-year-old brain of mine used to work, it's different now.
Yeah, that it is.
that
it is.
That's its own challenge.
I'm speaking for myself as well, but now let's go to move into Act 6, and wisdom for women. Okay, so the question is this: is you've spent decades working in the performing arts and mentoring younger artists, also as an educator in academia. What advice would you give young women entering the entertainment industry today?
That's a great question. It's a really great question. And one of the things that I just remembered texting to one of my students the other day, because she said she was a bit discouraged, because she hadn't been getting callbacks, and, physiologically our body's changing every few years. So sometimes the exercise or the nutrition program that you have may not be working, so you have to change things up. And I just told her, I said, it's okay to be where you are right now. I said, sometimes it's okay to take a break. Like I took a break. I took a long break from performing. Sometimes it's okay to take a break and take care of you. Like, what does your spirit need? You know what I mean? What do you need nutritionally? What do you need, mentally? It's okay. And then something that's so important, and social media makes this so hard, especially for this generation. Don't compare yourselves to others. Your path is your path. It's going to happen when it's going to happen. The only thing you can't, because I can't control everyone else in the cast, right? I can't control everything else that happens in our household. I can only control what I can do and how I react or how I respond. I can only take, responsibility for me, no one else. And that's really hard because, sometimes us mamas, we like to control everything and tie it up in a bow, and I don't want you to be sad, and I don't want you to go through this, but guess what? Sometimes we got to go through it, and myself included. And so that's my thing is, don't be anyone else. Do you, boo. Don't
right, yeah.
Wherever you are, it doesn't matter. Oh, but I'm not, I'm not this enough. I'm too skinny or too heavy, or I'm not brown enough, or I'm not this enough. Because the industry will try to fit you in a box. And that happened to me a few months ago. Remember the pharmaceutical thing I almost booked, but I didn't. And they said, well, Renee, you're not fitting the specs for a 45 to 55-year-old African-American woman. And I said, what does that mean? Well, for the pharmaceutical, you should be on this drug, be overweight, be this, that, and the other. And I'm not. So I had to let that go, because you remember, I had to let that go and say, wow, okay, well, then that's not for me. That might be for somebody else to book, but that's not for me. So let me focus on what is for me. And I'm going to give her a shout out. Kim Hale, 20 years, not doing anything in theater, moved to LA, was doing TV film, let her hair go gray. We're the same age. You know what I mean? In our late 50s. And she moved to New York. She's been booking theater shows. She's dance captaining now, 9 to 5. And her thing is, don't put an age limit on your goals and dreams. And I was told that by Liz Imperio. Remember when I did the TV show? She was like, Renee, what? She's like, there's so many things you could do. You're so multi-talented and this, that, and the other. She goes, when the work is ready, You know what I mean? And when it's there for you, it'll be there for you. So this was just like me like, okay, I'm going to go to the call. And then I book it. I was like, oh, I guess I really am going to be back on stage. It was almost like I took, you know what I mean? Like a little bit of a dare. You know, like I put myself out there, but then you know me, come on. Because since September, I knew I was doing the show. I was like, ooh, can I really do that? Like physically, like can my body really, be pounding out these dance numbers?
Yep. Let's go.
We're doing African, we're doing jazz, I'm doing everything in heels.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, can I really sustain this? Like vocally?
Right.
I'm doing Honey No. 2.
Yeah.
I'm singing high notes. I'm somewhere in a register I haven't sung in 20, I'm being honest, in 25 years. And I'm an alto and I can sing low to the ground. So now I'm singing really low and I'm singing right at the middle of my break voice.
Wow. It's amazing. It's being stretched.
Oh.
And then pushing to the next and evolving to the next performing artist that you have been called to be.
Called to be. Right? And I'm like, ow, okay. But, and I'm, you know what I mean? Because I'm like looking at myself like, and not saying, oh, well, looking at the resume, oh, I've done all this work and this, that, and the other. It's not even about that because that was so long ago for me. Like, I feel like I'm more comfortable being behind the scenes and you know what I mean? Like talent and the creative team's like, no, girl, you need to be back on the stage. Amazing, like, do you know how you shine and do you know? And I'm like going, you know what I mean? It's just an interesting feeling. And I'm like, okay, I trust them. They hired me. Right. So I guess I still got it. You know what I mean? So, but that's a trust thing that I have to trust that they know what they're doing. Like, I can't be like, no, I'm not doing that. No, I can't lift my leg no more. No, that's false humility too. Right. And having an attitude and not being willing to learn and grow. Yeah. So that's where I am right now. Literally, they stretch me, that's for sure.
Oh, you know what? We're at the final question.
So what is it?
I would slow it down.
Get
a little
your tickets
bit.
now.
Okay, so my final question. My final question, everyone.
Okay,
Renee, we met in 1986 at Hersheypark. And you singing rock and roll show, me in the dance show, and a year later we were married, and here we are, nearly 40 years, almost 40 years now. Almost 40 years.
Oh my God. Is it?
Almost 40 years. And I actually, it blew my mind. So I had to do the numbers. And I did the numbers and I still went to AI and asked AI, am I right?
No, he's really telling my age and his age. We got 2 decades here, 50 and 60. It's all good.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, it is.
And so anyway, we met a year later, on this journey together, and we've shared stages together. And there was a time when, and I was told one time that they said jokingly, they being a creative team, said if you hire one, you have to hire the other.
Yes, that's true. And then that's how we stayed on every single show and toured, traveled the world together, living in different countries. Yeah,
we raised a family.
Yep.
Okay, and we built a life in the arts. We have a grandson.
The arts and the martial arts.
So when you look back at that journey, what do you think has helped us stay strong all these years?
That's easy for me. That's a short one. It might be different for him, but our faith in God, our faith in each other, and our faith just having that hope.
Love it. Yeah.
That's.
No. It's not very complicated,
no,
ladies and gentlemen.
It's that simple. And you're laughing. Because. And then I'll say to some people, they're like, when they meet me and they're talking and they're like, they know, I'm seasoned and whatever. And but they're like, wait, you and your husband, like, you guys really been married that long? And I'm like, yeah, we put a life of dedication and devotion into each other and helped each other with the dreams that we had, whether it was the karate school or touring or doing shows, and we kind of wove it together. I said, because it's intense. I said, I wouldn't want to do this again. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like build a second or third or fourth marriage. Oh no. I was like, one's enough. And they kind of giggle and laugh and go, wow. Like that. Do you know what I mean? Because it's hard.
It is. It's tough. But life is tough.
Yes.
And
no matter what
age you're in, it doesn't change. Life.
See, I got flowers. He gave me flowers the other day. Last night he gave me flowers. He was like, "Yeah, you made it." From that the long week of my rehearsals.
I gave you flowers for the beginning when you started.
Beginning of rehearsals, he gave me roses 2 weeks ago, and now I have.
This is end of week 2.
End of week.
Week 2. She's working hard. So Renee, wrapping us up. I want to thank you for sharing your memories and your story, your wisdom today. And to everyone listening out there, whether your stage is a theater, a classroom, a business, or your own life journey, remember this: strength often begins with one decision, one moment where you choose courage, choose truth, and choose to stand firmly in who you are. Because living strong really is just a tap away. So I want to thank you guys for listening.
Yay.
And just lift you guys up. Have an amazing week, and we got
to do our plug.
Let's go ahead.
Plug.
Do the plug.
Hey, so if you want to come and see an amazing show, we've Jelly's Last Jam at Bristol Riverside Theater. We open the end of this month and we run till the end of April.
There you go.
What is it? brtstage.org, and Peter will put it in the link.
I'll put it right below somewhere in this page. Look for it. Get your tickets. And
Broadway choreographers we're working with, people from the New York area, Philadelphia. Our musical directors worked with Stevie Wonder and Beyonce. The band, the orchestra is smoking. This show is incredible. It is. I just found out this the other day. This is Bristol Riverside Theater's largest show that they've ever done. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So come on out.
And the drummer is fantastic.
He is. David is amazing. Yeah.
So I love what they're doing. So get your tickets. I know I've got mine. I'll be at the opening night. And I'll go with my son.
Yay!
CJ's coming with me. And information is right below. And so, again, thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. Share this with your friends. And we'll talk to you next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Living strong is just a tap.
If you love community and connecting with people who want to grow, encourage one another, and live strong mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, I created a place for that. Welcome to the Living Strong community. This is our community wall where members share reflections, encouragement, ideas, and what they're doing to live strong in their daily lives. Inside the classroom, I share lessons, tools, and frameworks from the Living Strong method, things you can actually do and practice in your everyday life as you live strong. And our calendar will feature upcoming conversations, events, trainings, and community gatherings. Very excited about that. And we're going to do those in our local businesses. Exciting. And the map lets you see where Living Strong members are joining from around the world. I know people from my performing arts days, my martial arts, all over the world, and it's exciting to see them jumping in and joining Living Strong around the world. Very exciting there. Now, if this speaks to you, on screen there's a link and a QR code, or you can just click the link in the description of this video or in the comments below. We'll see you there. Remember, Living Strong is just a tap away.
Living strong.